Welcome to the BEASTwriter family where social media engagement is encouraged. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we are here with Jerry Yang for Taco Tuesdays. Jerry is a good friend of mine. He's part of the BWF. Subscribe to my BEASTwriter Plus newsletter. Doesn't have to, but I thank you for everything that you've done in supporting me. So mahalo. And thank you
Yeah,
for joining
no,
us
it's
today on this Taco Tuesday. I know you've been busy. This is not your 9 to 5 like it is
I'm
mine.
looking
So
for tacos, man. Every time you mention it, I crave a taco now. Thanks a lot. That's good. No, the newsletter is awesome, dude. I definitely worth subscribing for anyone who's a fan. Like I sign up for
yeah,
other subscriptions, and like
right.
I told you, like I like how condensed your stuff is, but it has so much
Mhm.
information. I can
Thank
get
you.
through it pretty
Appreciate it.
easily, and that's I think one of the biggest things for me. Like you said, I don't have a lot of time to just sit down and read like a long article. So
Right.
yours is really really good for someone like me.
What do you like most about the newsletter that's maybe someone who's interested? Because obviously it's subscription based.
Yep.
That's my 9 to 5. So obviously you're gonna have to pay for my information. It's not gonna come free. But give the people out there who are watching this right now, what is the BEASTwriter Plus newsletter? What does it entail? What's a competitive advantage of subscribing to me as opposed to somebody else? What exactly do you like about it, other than it's just recycled news, or maybe something a little bit different or outside the box thinking?
No, I just like the breakdown you do, right? Like the detail that you put into it and some of the clips that you put in to like support what you're saying,
Hmm.
and a lot of those clips is pretty hard to find actually. So I'm pretty impressed that you're able to find those clips and find the analysis of, hey, this person, you can tell he's like behind on defense or he's slow to step, or
Right.
I think the I always go back to this, but the Claypool breakdown you did for the Steelers, I never seen any analysis like that out there, right? And that helps me understand a lot about how offenses operate and what he's doing well that you don't see on TV, right? On
Hmm.
TV, you hear Collinsworth or whoever the commentator talk about, but that type of analysis, you need someone like you who is actually sitting there studying the film and bringing it to light. Like, hey, look, Claypool might be the number three receiver there. I mean, this week he was probably number one, right? But
Hmm.
you kind of break it down that he actually had a really good game, right? Stat
Right.
wise, you can't get that. On the stat wise, you're kind of like, no, he's pretty weak on
Right.
on offense, but once you broke it down, you're like, okay, he is a factor, right? And defense are
Yeah.
accounting for him, and why that is, here's why, right? And you'll see a lot of that, especially like the detailed player breakdowns and highlighting someone like Claypool, right? Like Claypool
Hmm.
was, I think, like hit last season because there was a lot of injuries to the
Right.
Steelers, and probably will be this season because there's a lot of injuries to the Steelers wide receiving core. But you kind of do tell us why that's okay, right? And why Claypool can handle his own. So that's what I appreciate about it, right? So I hope you continue with those like player breakdowns and those
Okay.
like detailed videos is what I would look forward to.
Well,
So
that's all good information because at the end of the day, you guys pay my bills, right? So I'm gonna go to what you guys want, right? You guys are one that's paying my bills, so I'm gonna give the fans, the people, the BWF what they want. If you guys want more game film breakdown, like Chase Claypool, that takes me 18 hours to break down in a piece,
yeah,
I
it's a
will
lot
go
of
ahead and
work.
do that. It is a lot of work. I'm at the gym in between sets and I'm always grinding, right? So I'm always cross checking my
Mhm.
analysis with players, coaches, scouts, you name it. We're going to talk about that and how that affected the 49ers Green Bay Packers outcome. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of legwork that goes behind the scenes other than just going off a box score, or even people who try to break down film when they get coaches film and you're talking to them and then you're listening to them and you're like, what the hell is this guy saying? Like, what is he
Mhm.
talking about? And then they'll delete the tweet and it's like, nah, bro, you already said that. Like, you can't go back
Yeah.
on your word and say you didn't say it. So that's why it's
Well,
like,
that's yeah.
you know what
That's why
I'm
I
saying?
appreciate your picks. No, I appreciate your picks that you put out there
Oh,
because you also go back and say what you got wrong,
yeah,
right? And that
yeah,
takes like a really bold move to do that. Because
yeah,
a lot of people can't admit that they were wrong, even though the stats say they're wrong. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I
So
mean,
it's good. It's good to have that ongoing track. That'll be my suggestion to you. This to have like an overall ranking of how often you're right and wrong.
mhm,
Like saying last week was 10 rights and three
right.
wrongs or whatever. You keep
That's
that
on the
running
Monday
total
morning
would be
quarterback.
helpful.
So I already posted that
Yeah,
every Monday morning quarterback I do that, and then I actually attach
nice.
the link to every prop bet
Ah,
that
there
I
we
that I
go.
made. So if you look
There
on
we
the very
go.
bottom of the Monday morning quarterback, like last week, right?
Yeah.
Prop bets. I was 67%. I was 4 for 6 on hitting those prop bets. I could have been
Wow.
6 for 6. Coulda, shoulda, woulda, doesn't matter. It's actually a good
Mhm.
sample size to pull from, because of those bets that I missed on, which is only 2 out of the entire week, I've the margin of error was only 1.5 catches. So just think,
Wow.
1.5 catches from
That's
being 100%
impressive.
correct. I mean, that's what you
It's
pay for, right?
impressive.
Because I mean, it's all
Yeah.
about money, right? It's all about, show me the money. You're going to make a prediction. You're going to talk highly or badly about a player, give constructive criticism, have your own grading system, and then
Yep.
cross-check that analysis with the matchups going into every single week, and then dissecting it peeling back another layer of the onion to get to the core. When we talk about fantasy football, how it affects fantasy
Mhm.
football, how it does affect the outcome as it pertains to the pulse of all 32 NFL teams. I got you covered, and that's what I really like about it. So for people like you who want this, right? And I'm not afraid to get it wrong, right? It's not very
Mhm.
often, but when I do, yeah, I'm not gonna be 100% every single time. Otherwise, I'd be living in Mandalay Bay up in the freaking high rise, right? So
Right, right. And it's for entertainment purposes only, by the way. I
it's
just
for
want to help you out
entertainment
there.
purposes only. Yes, I
Don't
always
place
say
any
that.
bets on Ryan. It's
It is. It's funny
it's
because
your
I get
responsibility, right? So
yeah,
not
it's your
you
responsibility
as
to
in
know
the
your own
viewers.
state laws.
Yeah.
But anyways, I get DMs
Disclaimer,
all the
disclaimer.
time, man. And I tell you this off the record, like
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy the that so much is riding on my analysis and they actually
Well, it's
trust
so
it.
hard, right?
It's
Football
very
is so hard to
difficult.
predict. That's like there's so
Very
many
difficult.
things, so many players that go into it. It's not like
Yeah.
NBA. You have 5 players, one guy gets hurt, and you're like, okay, well, now we know where this game's going,
Yeah.
right? So it's kind of hard to tell.
Exactly. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the 49ers Green Bay Packers matchup. Everybody wants to know our analysis. I broke it down in the Beastwriter Plus newsletter. If you're not yet subscribed, please be sure to do that. I included that in the ticker below. Just make sure the www.beastwriternfl.com is in there. So just go to www.beastwriternfl.com and you'll be able to subscribe to my newsletter. It is a subscription-based monthly newsletter like The Athletic. But again, you're getting your money's worth, because at the end of the day, you're getting insight that, like Jerry says, you can't find anywhere else. You can't even make it
Mhm.
up. You can't even replicate this. Often imitated, never duplicated, right? So anyways, getting back to it, let's go ahead and talk about the Green Bay Packers. I already broke it down. What did you come out of that week 3 matchup in that epic 30-28 loss?
I mean, I'm still like disappointed, sad, pissed.
Yeah.
It's still affecting me, man. Like honestly, because like
Mhm.
it's making me question that whole team. Not just this game alone. I think this game was encapsulating how the Niners were all season in some ways, because we shouldn't have struggled so much in the second half of the Lions game. We shouldn't have struggled so much with the Eagles. And I think this game, the first half was garbage, like
Yeah.
the offense was garbage, right? The offense was
Mhm.
complete garbage in the first half. And the defense was subpar, and
Yeah.
then towards the second half, the offense picked it up, which is good, right? I think that's where Trey Sherman kind of felt more comfortable. Jimmy G started making his throws, and we didn't just go 3 and out the whole
Right.
half, right? Which is what
Right.
happened in the first half until the end. And then the defense still was playing like not that great until the end, right? I think the last quarter they played great up until that last 37 seconds, and then the 37
Correct.
seconds is like you mentioned, it's all prevent defense and played really soft, and it was obvious, right? Like everyone could do that, and I don't actually blame like Kyle Juszczyk and Kyle Shanahan for making that last touchdown. I
Mhm.
think we
Mhm.
needed a touchdown, so we had to do it instead of
Right.
trying to burn clock. Because at the end of the first half, it took us so many tries to get in the red zone to get a touchdown, right? And like you can't
Right.
afford to rest on your laurels. But I think what really cost us was that fumble that Jimmy G had that made it so that we had to get a touchdown, right? If we didn't have that, we only needed a field goal. I think you can burn more clock if you only needed a field goal to win rather
Right.
than getting a touchdown. So I think that was a key difference as well. Um, and I'm just thinking the team just needs something to light them up. I think Trent Canyon making that huge return lit them up and they started playing better. But why do you need that, right? That's only teams that are subpar teams that need things like that. So, I mean, that's my overall analysis, right? I just felt really disappointed in defense. I'm a little concerned from the secondary perspective because Josh Norman, like, I hope he's getting better, but 2 bruised lungs and tissue damage, that doesn't sound like something you want to get back soon,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad the guy's alive, let alone return next week, let's just be real there. That's a serious injury, right? So,
Right.
I think I hate to say it, but maybe we should call Richard Sherman. Whether or not he's going to be ready to go, he's going to be better than anyone we have now. So
Yeah.
it's kind of, I know it's an extreme, and I know a lot of people on social media are mentioning it, and it sounds really crazy. But at this point, who else would you get in the quarterback? So that knows the system.
It's one of those things where I think you have to take it with a grain of salt. I mean, the boundary cornerback position is absolute horrible. And I said this since day one. And even though I'm a Alabama Roll Tide fan and D'Amico Ryans played for Bama, I always kept it 100. I said when Saleh left, that defense is going to be a lot different. Just like when DeForest Buckner left, it's going to be a lot different. People calling me a hater. No, I'm just being 100% real. And the Beast receipts check out. Here we are entering week 4. Okay, so let's not get it twisted. What I said was D'Amico Ryans is a new defensive corner. He's going to be a good defensive corner. I already posted this up on YouTube. If you guys want to search for that, just type in D'Amico Ryans BEASTwriter. You see what I had to say about that. But getting back to, the game, anytime you go prevent defense in a quarters coverage against Aaron Rodgers, or anytime, let's backtrack a little bit. In the first half alone, they used cover 1 more than any other cover shell in that first half. And that's the number one thing you don't do when you have boundary cornerbacks, especially inexperienced young boundary cornerbacks who cannot stay stride for stride with guys like Devonta Adams, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, guys like this who have 4.3 speed. All right. Peeling back another layer of the onion to really get to the core, right? You look at the people that the Packers have brought into that receiving core. You have Randall Cobb, you have guys like this, right? Ultimately, what happens is when you do yourself a disservice by sticking with a strict cover 1 shell, which is single high, man underneath, and you expect those boundary cornerbacks to hold up, thinking that the pass rush will get there. Well, now you're doing yourself a disservice because at the end of the day, these boundary cornerbacks cannot hold up. They're not good, right? And so what happens here is there's a disconnect because at the end of the day, who's going to look bad? The boundary cornerbacks. Well, they're stuck in an island because they're playing cover 1. What D'Amico Ryans should have been doing, he should have been sticking with that cover 3 defense. And that's what they should have rolled with. Cover 3 defense means you protect the boundary cornerbacks, protect the sticks on the back end, right? So you have 3 back and you have 4 underneath defenders. So you're not really going to be able to get beat deep because you have 3 behind you, but at the end of the day, you're keeping everything in front. And I think it's a bend but don't break defense that we all came accustomed to love under Robert Saleh. And again, you have to adapt to that defense. In fact, I would even take it a step further and said, you know what? They should have used Jaquaski Tart more as on the back end than as a strong safety coming up in the box in the cover 2, because when you play a cover 2, now you're even playing it even more aggressive. The problem with the last drive, and I said it on my BEASTwriter Plus newsletter, and I'll talk a little bit about it. I'm not going to shed the whole entire story like I did in a newsletter. We'll be doing you and others a disservice who already subscribe to it. But I will say this. All right. When you play a cover 4 defense against Aaron Rodgers, people are blaming the boundary cornerbacks for not letting Adams free, right? Giving him a free release off the line of scrimmage. Letting them find the soft spots in zone coverage. But that's what a cover 4 is by default. You're playing 7, 8, 9 yards behind the sticks, or sorry, from the line of scrimmage, not behind the sticks, from the line of scrimmage. And then you're keeping everything in front because you don't want Devonta Adams to go out of bounds. So you're using the boundary as an extra defender, keeping things in front. So you'll give up that intermediate route, right? So when people say, oh man, it's that boundary corner. Yes, throughout the game, they were horrible. But on the last drive, I blame that on solely D'Amico Ryans. What he should have did was what's called a fire zone blitz or a zone blitz, meaning you generate pressure, not using a 4-man front, because the 49ers, let's not get it twisted. They only came up with 1 or 2 sacks at this entire game, 1 sack by Eric Armstead, right? What I would have did is, okay, I'm not playing to win if I'm playing cover 4. I'm playing not to lose. I'm going to play it aggressive. Now, I'm not saying bring the whole entire kitchen sink like Adam Gase did when he was the coach of the New York Jets last year. What I am saying is being calculated in your risks. Why don't you go ahead and use a fire zone blitz while you're still playing zone on the back end, but bring in pressure from unknown areas, whether it be a slot cornerback, right? So if Theo Lenore is getting beat, why don't you just bring him up and maybe use him as a blitzer? They never used him once in that entire game. All it took was one bad play for the Packers offensive line for this game to be over. Instead, they step back, play this waiting game, and going back to your point, getting back to Kyle Juszczyk, people blaming, the clock management, whatever. No, I agree with you 110% because at the end of the day, there is no guarantees in the NFL. If Kyle Juszczyk was to fall down at the 1 yard line, there's no guarantee they're going to get 6 points by default.
Right.
I mean, what are you thinking? This is the NFL, bro. Like, everything's in hindsight. But as the play was unfolding, and I was talking to Jeff about this, as we were watching the game, I said, they shouldn't have played cover 4. Like, what are they doing? Like, as it was going, it's like, watch, Devontae Adams is going to beat them, or even Marquez Valdez-Scantling is going to beat them because, again, you're playing a cover 4.
That's what happened, right? MVS had a great game.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. So I blame this on the DeMeco Ryans. I hate to say it, but hey, sorry, not sorry, man. Like, it is what it is. Like, you should not have played a cover 4. You should have used a fire zone blitz, still protecting on the back end. If you're afraid to get beat, sure. Okay, cool. Still play zone on the back end, but apply pressure from unknown places to where you're now getting 5-man rush instead of a 4-man rush, and think you can get there organically when throughout the whole entire freaking game, throughout 4 quarters, you were unable to do that. So you got to switch it up. You got to adapt to your personnel. You don't have DeForest Buckner there. I'm sorry. Javon Kinlaw has a hurt knee. I'm sorry. You know, all these guys are injured. Yeah. Nick Bosa, we don't know if he's 110%, right? So, like, at the end of the day, it's like you have to give these guys help. They can't do it alone organically because it's not the same defense that Robert Saleh had back in 2019.
So there's a lot of talk about Aaron Rodgers having that quick release. I think he had like under 2 seconds, from snap to release, the fastest in the NFL right now, right? I think Ben Roethlisberger was like 2.1 or whatever. He's the second fastest, but is there any truth to that? You think it's because he has a fast release that Bosa was able to get to him?
No, okay, no, because I mean, go back to his rookie year, go back to. It's Bosa. I mean, if you're going to make excuses for a quick release, then you can always find bits and pieces, right? Oh, well, he's going to the quick release according to Next Gen Stats or PFF. It's right. I don't give rats. You get paid to do a job. Get home.
Get there, yeah.
If I wanted to play devil's advocate here, which I always do in the newsletter, let's play a little round and round. Here we go. You could say the same about Nick Bosa going up against a blindside left tackle that's number 3 on the depth chart. So holler at your boy. Let's keep it 100. All I'm saying is the defensive line is not as strong as it once was. All right. And that's not a knock on Eric Armstead. That's not a knock on Javon Kinlaw. That's not a knock on Nick Bosa. It's just, it is what it is. They're not the same. They got bullied by a suspect Packers offensive line that's playing without Corey Linsley, who's now off to the LA Chargers, first team All-Pro. First team All-Pro David Bakhtiari, blindside left tackle.
He was hurt, right? Yeah.
And they manhandled the Niners up front.
Right.
So what does that say about the 49ers defense when, again, if I'm watching this right now, which DeMeco Ryans was doing yesterday as they evaluate game film on Mondays, you go into that game film room and look like, hey, we were blown off our spot. They blew off our grass. We had no movement whatsoever. So this week going in against the Seattle Seahawks, what do you think they're going to do? Pound and ground, baby. And then play action pass with Tyler Lockett, right? Guys like DK Metcalf, good luck. And you think you're going to play a cover 1 or cover 3 against those guys? Good luck. You want to play a cover 4 to end the first half when Russell Wilson can, run that naked bootleg, throw a deep pass, possibly for a touchdown? Good luck. You're going to do yourself a disservice. And at the end of the day, you can't be playing scared. You have to play it aggressive, but be calculated in those risks. And that's what happened with Aaron Rodgers. He was looking at cover 4. Right. He's seen this a million times to end the half, to end the game, and said, you know what? I'm going to put on the clinic. Sorry, guys. We've been working on this on Friday practice, and we know you guys don't have boundary quarterbacks to hold up because NFL is a game of matchups. Yep. I'm sorry. I'm going to beat you deep, and we're just going to win this game. Because you're not respecting
Primetime Rodgers, right? Primetime Rodgers came out. He's always been in this spot before. Like, if anyone, him, Tom Brady, it's like, you can't expect to win against that type of coverage. I totally agree with you. He should have made some adjustments. I hope they learn
Yeah.
next game. But what do you think about the offense? Like, for what happened that first half, right? That was the part I was a little bit shocked by because
Mhm.
I know Jimmy G has the late start or like slow starts, right? I think that's
Mhm.
been well documented in the first 2 games. He's had
Right.
slow starts, but he hasn't had a slow halves yet, right?
Right.
It's usually he picks it up by mid first quarter or even early second quarter, right? But this time it was just like slow start until really that last
Mhm.
like 2 minutes in the second half. Then he came out in the second half being, looking like the Jimmy G that we're depending on, and I think this team's gonna be slowed down by Jimmy G. I don't know if Trey Lance is gonna be the answer either, but
Mhm.
it's just I thought, how can you fix a problem like that? Like what did you see on the offense that
Well,
you
let's
thought was
get to the
questionable?
let's get to Tony's
Oh yeah,
super
yeah.
chat and
Let's
super
go.
sticker first. Thank you so much, Tony, for sending me the super chat and super sticker. We really appreciate it. And again, this is how we make money. Obviously, Tony Nakatani is also a Beastwriter Plus subscriber, so he knows all about what
Good
you're
job,
talking about,
Tony.
Jared. Yeah. He knows everything that you're talking about. And again, if you guys have questions, go ahead and send me this super chat or super stickers. It really does us a favor in upkeep of the channel, keeps things in line as NFL season is obviously here. I know you're short on time. I'm obviously short on time, but this
Yep.
really keeps us in lockstep on our schedule. So he says, are you hearing anything about Trenton Cannon playing halfback? Seems like he would be the best Raheem Mostert stand-in. Yes, because of his speed, and I already tweeted this out right before they signed him, and I said he would be ideal for the zone blocking scheme. Unfortunately, I think they're going to give Trey Sermon another shot. I shouldn't say unfortunately because I like Trey Sermon, but I
Well,
think Trey
Elijah
Sermon,
Mitchell might be back too, though, right? I think is that going to factor in?
he could come back. I mean, he has a shoulder injury, right? But
Yeah,
at the end of the day, is he going to be 100% healthy? And again, when you're facing a Seattle Seahawks defense, again, division game, and you know it's going to be a
yeah.
black and blue divisional game where players are going to get hurt. I hate to say it, but someone's going to get hurt. It happens every Seattle Seahawks for now. I mean, it can happen.
Yeah,
It
I
happens
know.
on both sides, Niners or Seahawks. Someone's going
Yep.
to get hurt. Someone's going to get lit up. So if it was me, yes, I mean, I guess you can bring back Elijah Mitchell, but at the end of the day, you didn't draft Trey Sermon, number 88 overall in the third
Yeah,
round,
just
to
to
ride the
ride the
pine,
pine.
as
Yeah.
I always say, ride the pine, right?
I
So
love that
you don't
term.
do that.
So
Thank you. Um, that's
no, I know he started
my
looking
coach
good though.
always
Like
said that to me.
Trace,
That's why. My coach always
yeah,
said, you know what? You
don't
didn't
ride the
transfer
pine,
over to our
right?
school to ride the pine. And I'm like, oh man, I have a fractured wrist. Okay, I'll get back in there, coach. My bad. I swear, true story.
That's
He
how
said
people play
that, and that
football
stuck
back
in my
then,
head in
right?
high
It's a
school,
tougher
bro.
league. It's a
I
tougher
was like,
league back
I was
then,
like, jeez, Louise, dude. I was like, okay, fine. I have a fractured wrist. I got to see the doctor. Got hit by a car. Okay, you want me in? Okay, cool story, bro. That's a true
No,
story.
I like Trent Canyon, right? I like the XFL. I was watching XFL a lot. I never saw him on there, but I do
Yeah,
like Trent Canyon. I think that play on punt return, he did really good, or kickoff return. Right? I think it was a kickoff return that he
he
returned
did.
back. That was impressive, man. He hit the
Yeah.
hole, and that was really good. I think that's like I said. I think that lit the offense and the whole team and got them back into the game. I don't think they started playing until that play happened. So are we gonna hear more from him? I feel like they're gonna keep him on kickoffs for now and
Mhm.
then work him into the system, right? So we'll see. But like you said, I think they need to give Trey Sherman more chances. He started looking good in the second half. Trey Sherman seemed like he had a slow start, had those rookie
Uh,
jitters or whatever it
I'm
is.
not happy.
But
I'm not
you
happy with
know,
Trey Sermon, dude. I
come on, you got
expected
a
more.
touchdown.
I expect, yeah, but I mean, we can score a touchdown just by diving over the offensive line. It was more so him unabling. That's not even a word. Him being unable to hit the hole fast enough. I mean, the holes were developed. He's
Oh,
just
I see.
slow in dissecting the lane.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. In the zone blocking scheme, and Tony Nagatani, getting back to your question, I think Trenton Cannon should be inserted more, getting a larger sample size to pull from. Ultimately, I think he's a guy off the street. So again, if you're looking at it from a management perspective, you're GM John Lynch and you're the scouting department. Hey, look, you don't trust us as scouts. I mean, you're playing
Mhm.
Joe Schmo ahead of us. Like, what's going on? Like, we drafted
Well,
this guy. It's not like a Trent
right.
Sherfield where he came as an undrafted rookie free agent, and then Brandon Ayuk was in the doghouse, and then
Yep.
that was probably used as a motivational tactic, right? So Chase Sermon's a rookie. Brandon Ayuk's the second-year player. We know what Brandon Ayuk could bring to the table. He has the confidence to go ahead and
Yeah.
bounce back. Trey Sermon, I'm not sure. I'm not so sure, right? We are not so sure about that because, I mean, think about it this way. If you're Trey Sermon and some guy's playing over you as a rookie, you're probably looking at this like, why the hell did they draft me? You know, if you
Right.
don't have confidence in me, why'd you draft me?
That's what
And
you feel in week 1, right? When he was not even active. I
yeah,
feel like
well,
everyone
so was
felt
Aaron
that way.
Banks. Aaron Banks, I'd
Yeah.
say, was a bust
He's
from the
still not
beginning.
active, right?
He hasn't
Week
played.
3, we haven't seen him yet. What the hell?
Another beast receipt checks out. I
Waste of
said
a
he
pick,
sucked.
man. Waste of a
Another,
pick.
what I say in real time, right on here, I
I
said Aaron Banks was.
remember. I
I said you
remember.
should have went after who? Asante Samuel has 2 interceptions,
Yep.
and here we are today.
Oh man.
But anyways,
Imagine we had him and Lenore, right? Like that would be a 1-2 combo right there.
yeah. It's
That's
really
crazy.
it's really bad. But no, getting back to the Niners, I mean, there's a lot of things that look, injuries happen in the NFL. The Steelers are banged up by injuries as well. As far as the defensive front seven, their boundary cornerbacks suck as well. That's why they have Akilla Witherspoon there, who was
Hey,
a healthy
Najee
pass
Harris,
rusher.
19 reception or 19
Hey,
targets, 14
yeah, there you
receptions.
go.
Like he's being
There you
used
go.
like a slot right
Yeah,
receiver at this point, right? I mean,
he set the
it's
franchise
crazy,
record for
man.
catches by a running back, topping Le'Veon Bell. So believe that. I mean, that was just mind boggling. And
That was
he
insane,
was a beast.
man.
He was a beast.
Yeah.
Hey, roll tide roll. What did I say? My draft crush. Another beast receipt checks out. Boom. No, but this is some things that you want to look for as far as the San Francisco 49ers, the Green Bay Packers, especially what people don't understand is when we talk about something, I want to give the fans, the BWF, something to look forward to in a sense of what are they doing right now? Like as we're talking right
Yeah.
now on this Taco Tuesday, they already watched game film yesterday. So what they're doing this week is they're looking forward to the Seattle Seahawks, and then they're prepping for, how their game plan is going to be formulated for that week. But then also at the same time, they're cleaning up yesterday's game film breakdown. So a lot of run fit integrity mishaps, a lot of missed tackles, right? You can't have these things. Guys getting beat on blown coverage. There was a play in the first half where Jacoski Tart's trying to make the read to K'Wan Williams, okay? And it was a cover 2 man underneath, all right? So it could be called discovered as sky coverage, or, there's different lingo as terms of how you want to call it, cover 5, cover 2, man underneath, whatever you want to call it. What happened was there's a disconnect there, and there's a lot of that on the back end. So if you're having Jacoski Tart and you're having your cornerback, whether it be a slot cornerback or a boundary cornerback, have this mishap in your pre-snap communication, what do you think Russell Wilson's going to do when you're the boundary cornerback and you're looking to your safety and Russell Wilson's looking at you and just hikes the ball? You're already a step behind. You're going to take 2 false steps, and that's all it takes for you to get beat over the top by DK Metcalf. So I think these things, little attention to detail before the snap is called, or before the ball is snapped, I should say, that you have to take into account. And I think that's what they're doing is, hey, look, we got to clean up some of the stuff on the back end, right? If Jacoski Tart is back there, and so is Jimmy Ward, and it's a cover 2, and, K'Wan Williams is playing the slot, odds are it's going to be man coverage. So you just handle your man. And you can see Jacoski Tart, like, yelling at him, like, get over there, get over there. And these things like this, it's almost like, okay, why was there so much of a disconnect? Like, you practiced this on Friday. You practice this throughout the week. If they don't clean this up against the Seattle Seahawks, it's going to be trouble, bro.
Right. How big an impact do you think losing K'Wan Williams was, right? Like, who's going to play nickel now? Is he expected to come back? Do you have any insight on that?
I mean, K'Wan Williams, let's face it, he got beat by Marquez Valdez-Scantling. It feels like he lost a step. It feels like he lost a step, right, in the slot. But it is a huge loss because, I mean, you think about it. K'Wan Williams is still a serviceable cornerback.
Yeah.
Maybe not one of the top 5 cornerbacks, but he's definitely top 10. And so anytime you lose a slot cornerback, I would be even quick to argue that playing slot cornerback is a lot harder than playing boundary cornerback, because on the boundary, it's usually you're playing, your zone, you have the sideline extra defender. When you're lined up in the slot, you're usually going up against a shiftier, faster, speedy wide receiver, and you have to know where your linebackers are and where their coverage is. So in essence, you really need to know and think like a point guard in basketball where your help is, because again, if they're running a rub route and you're lined up in the slot, odds are if it's chips formation or what's called a 3-by-2 formation or a 3-by-1 formation, and you're locked in on that side and you see your man, if in this case, if it's man assignment and he's running a rub route, you got to work through that, sift through that smoke and sift through that trash so you can stay on that hip of the wide receiver. So these are things that K'Wan Williams does seamlessly because he's been in the NFL for so long. What happens is when you roll in a guy like, say, Dio Lenore to play that role, it's not going to work out well for you, because we saw
Yeah.
it what happened when he was the boundary cornerback going against Devontae Adams in the first half on that
Right.
game.
It was getting beat.
It was called a choice route. What happened was he couldn't decipher, and he was lined up man coverage. And again, this is goal line situational football here. And even for a rookie, you have to know where your help is, but you also have to know and respect the down and distance. You can't not give that sizable cushion against a big-bodied wide receiver like that. If I'm small and I'm going up against Devontae Adams, one thing that he has over me is his size. But one thing that he will not have over me is I am stronger than Devontae Adams. That's known. So I would press him at the line of scrimmage, and now I'd move him off his spot, because if I get beat, I'm going to get beat off the line of scrimmage. I'm not going to get beat by letting him and giving him a free release off the line of scrimmage. Instead, then he's going to jump, and then obviously he has a 40-inch jump on top of being 6'3". He's going to come down that every single time. So you want to body him up, and you want to use whatever advantage you have with Dio Lenore. I mean, they liked him because of his size. They liked him because of his size. So why don't you body him up?
Yeah. Use that size, right? If you liked him for his size, use it. Prove it, right?
And he had help over the top on the back end with that safety, right? So it's just almost like, okay, so like, I don't understand why it's so difficult. And again, this is all in hindsight, and we can all talk about it in hindsight. But even as the play was unfolding, I'm like, why are you, especially in goal line situation, you have Devontae Adams there. You know, Aaron Rodgers is going to target Devontae Adams 65% of the time when it's inside the 5-yard line, if it's a pass, right? So it just blows my mind. That comes down to prep, that comes down to analytics, and that comes down to not knowing what personnel you have and how you leverage your boundary quarterback and teaching them what to do on a certain play.
So do you think Aubrey Thomas will be able to fill in some of those gaps? Because he has been active too, right?
No,
like, what's the deal with him?
He sucks, bro.
He's like a third-round pick or whatever, right? What round was he picked? Yeah, he was third round, right?
So think about it this way. Why would you activate a player who's been a healthy scratch so far? I shouldn't say he sucks, because he hasn't been, but you know what? I'm not very.
He hasn't given the chance, though, right? Yeah.
I mean, what's the point of if Dio Lenore is this bad as a 5th-round pick and he's starting over a guy on the depth chart, over a guy like Ambry Thomas?
That's what I'm worried about. Why?
How bad is he? How bad is Ambry Thomas? In fact, this falls on John Lynch, right? And I said John Lynch should be on the hot seat.
The first 3 picks aren't playing, right? Like, what the hell?
Tweet it out. Tweet it out. I tweeted it out.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
That's outside of Trey Lance. He's the first pick. But you have Aaron Banks, healthy scratch. Trey Sermon would have been a healthy scratch. Ambry Thomas would have been a healthy scratch. So 3 of your top 4 picks are healthy scratches. If it weren't for injuries, you know, the only reason Trey Sermon's in the lineup is because you can't draft in the top of rounds. That's the deal. And I said it since day one. And here we are, round and round. Now the Beast received, I mean, how many Beast
waste of a draft, right? Waste of a draft. I mean, that's horrible. So, I mean, at this point, let's preview Seattle, right? Like, you did mention a little bit Seattle. I know you're gonna write a pretty detailed newsletter about Seattle, but you know, what are your initial thoughts now? You know, like Seattle didn't look too good either, but they're fighting for their lives. They're 1-2. Niners are 2-1 now. I think both coming off a loss. Both are going to play hungry, right? This is not going to be an easy game. Like, obviously, it's not going to be easy. And the Packers were a good defense. Like, the Packers' defense is horrible, right? And I think Seattle's is slightly better, but they're not great either. How do you think the Niners will do? You know, like, obviously, the offense is on point for Seattle. So, you know, this is going to be a tough matchup, I think. Not feeling good, Beast. Not feeling good.
I think it's going to be a defensive struggle, right? I don't think you're going to see a game like you saw in Green Bay where it's going to be a shootout. I think they're going to slow up the game on both sides because they know that right now they have to get something going and keep the opposing offense off the field. You don't want Russell Wilson having a lot of PT with the ball in his hands. You really don't want to do that. So you want to shorten the game as much as possible. Within the confinements of your own offense, right?
So time of possession type of game is what you're thinking for both sides, I guess, right?
Time of possession is always one of the things, but I mean, schematically, when you talk about it, it also is dictated by how the Seahawks can attack them, right? And again, you can attack the 49ers in a number of different ways, right? We saw them get exposed against the Niners with their so-called boundary cornerback position, right?
Yeah,
so they're taking a hit. So whoever the slot cornerback is, whether it be Josh Norman, who has lung problems, right? thoughts and prayers
I
go
don't
out
think
to
he's
him. I
coming
know
back for like at least 2 or 3 weeks, man. That sounds really rough. I mean,
hey,
end up
for
in the
NFL, bro.
hospital, coffee blood.
Yeah.
Like, he's lucky to be alive. Let alone let's make sure he comes back. I feel for the guy. Best wishes for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
So yeah, getting back to your question, man, I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be a tough matchup. Now, am
I
I
mean,
going to say the
how?
Niners are going to lose this ball? No, I'm not
Yeah,
going to say the Niners are going to lose this game because at the end of the day, the Niners are at home. They're still a good team. I mean, everyone's writing them off like they're horrible. They're not
they're
horrible.
not
They're actually
horrible. I don't, no,
they're a
they're two
playoff
and
team.
one, right? They're not horrible. They're 2 and one, right? But what I'm saying is, if you don't have running backs that you can rely on, like Trey Sherman can barely rely on, how are you gonna own the time of possession, right? Because you're gonna have to run the ball to burn some clock if you're trying to play that type of game. You can't count on receiving though, right? Or do you think Kyle Juszczyk is kind of playing that role? Because I'm seeing Kyle Juszczyk playing a little bit more like a running back this season now,
Right.
especially with all those injuries. So especially the last game, right?
Right.
Is that the plan going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now you have to roll with Trey Sermon, see what you got. If there's another game where he's not getting it done, Shanahan has always been one to ride the hot hand. And if that's Trenton Cannon or if that's some unknown undrafted rookie free agent that becomes the next Raheem Mostert, then so be it. But at the end of the
I
day, again,
see.
the running attack is going to be fine because it's Kyle Shanahan. I mean, we can be running backs
Yeah.
behind them and behind that offensive line. I mean, it goes without saying that that's what makes Shanahan so great is because you can plug and play anyone. At the end of the day, it comes down to health. These running backs haven't been
Right.
able to stay healthy, which is why Matt Breida's gone. That's why Raheem Mostert is now injured. Something I predicted,
God.
right? I said he'd get
Yeah.
injured by week 8.
Yep.
Here we are, week 3. He got injured. Going into week 4. But yeah, there's a lot of different things that you can talk about when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers and the running game. Ultimately, it comes down to the balance, right? Like at what point do you start neglecting the run and using a short area, West Coast passing game to possibly open up the run instead of the other way around? Because Shanahan likes to do it the other way around traditionally. But again, if you don't have the personnel, if you don't have a running back to hit that cutback lane, or if you don't have the offensive personnel to go ahead and do that, then you're going to have to switch it up like what the Pittsburgh Steelers did last year. Short area passing game to open up the run. They didn't have a running game, so they were just airing it out. And again, that's what good coaches do. They adapt to their player strengths. And that's why the Steelers went 11-0 last year without a running back. James Conner was not a good running back, and he wasn't a good running back for the last couple of years. So since I started covering the team back in 2019.
Where's he with now? He's with what team is he with now?
He's with the Arizona
Cardinals.
Yeah.
He's with the Cardinals now. Okay.
Correct.
I see.
So,
and then, do you think the Niners would air it out more though? Because the last game they did a lot of dink and dunks, right? And then the only like long ball got intercepted to George Kittle was intercepted. Do you think that's hurting the confidence? Like, can Jimmy G even air it out? That's another question, right? He seems to have accuracy issues once you go long. So, is that going to be a big concern there?
I don't think it's a big concern because, again, anytime you have Kyle Shanahan, what he's going to do is he's going to use Deebo Samuel. He's going to use him on those speed outs. He calls him the best screen runner, right? So he's going to use a lot of short area passing games, a lot of bubble screens, a lot of gadget plays, a lot of end arounds, reverses. And that's going to keep the
he has to get creative. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
He has to get creative then, right? Basically,
I mean, he always does, right? But then at the end of the day, it's almost like this. If you're an offensive coordinator, you have to look at it as a two-way street, right? If I'm going to go ahead and run these gadget plays because I don't want the Seahawks pinning their ears back and just going all out and getting vertical on me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run some jet sweeps to move you horizontally so that way you can't just pin your ears back and go. That will slow down the defense by default because you have to account for that on every single play. So there'll be, of course, a lot of window shopping, as we know that Kyle Shanahan likes to do. Unfortunately, you can only do that for so much before, especially against a division rival who basically knows you inside and out already. So they know if it's lined up in, let's say, 12 personnel, or 21 personnel, and Deebo's coming in motion. I know this because I run the freaking tapes on the coach's film. That is going to be a jet sweep more times than not, depending on where he's lined up on the strong side or the weak side formation and how the coverage is on the back end. I can tell you before the play even happens what's going to happen. I can tell you if it's going to be a fake, and they hand it off to Trey Sermon in the backfield. As he does that, comes out. I mean, this is stuff that
There's tendencies that you're noticing patterns, right? Yeah.
49ers Ultimate Report, thank you so much for the super chat and super sticker. Mahalo for the love, my man. He says, BEASTwriter, should the 49ers put Trey Lance as starter because Jimmy looked bad? No, I don't think so. I don't
Well,
think
that's
Jimmy
a good
looks that.
question, though, right? Like, are they going to use him more? I know they're not going to pull Jimmy. I think that's, I
Oh
agree with
yeah, they're
you. That's
definitely
not
going
going
to
to
use him.
happen. But they're using him more last game, but it
Mhm.
still doesn't seem like a lot, right? I think they use him maybe 3 or 4 plays. I'll defer to you on how many plays they used him on, but it felt a lot like there was a lot more on the Packers game than they used in the Lions and the Eagles game, right? Like, I think we saw a lot more. He got a touchdown, running touchdown. Do you think
Right,
that's the X factor, right? You talked about how Seattle has a film on the Niners. They know the
right,
tendencies, but they haven't seen a guy like Trey Lance on the team, right? And what they're doing.
right.
They only know him for a short distance right now, but could that be the X factor? Would they use him a lot more? Use him more like Taysom Hill is being used, for
Yeah, I
example.
mean that's something that I stated even before he was drafted by the Niners. I said any team who gets him, they're going to use him like Taysom Hill. And I think anytime I talked to Jeff about this, I said anytime he comes in the game, my first instinct is stopping the run off that zone read. All right,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, he's a run first quarterback than he is a pass. And people are talking about putting up captions or tweets saying, "Oh, in his first 3 games, he has one pass touchdown, one rush touchdown." Well, you know, he's from the 5 yard line and in. Like, of course, like if you're not getting that,
Yeah, he's
you
doing
shouldn't be a first
RPOs
round pick, bro. So
and
the sample size to pull from is very limited. I mean, you can put me in the 1 yard line or the 3 yard line, and I can score. Um, but in retrospect, I want to see him. Yeah, I do want to see him in the game, but is it time to hit the panic button on Jimmy Garoppolo? No, because that interception,
oh,
again, I pointed this
yeah,
out earlier in the BeastwriterPlus Plus newsletter. I said, hey, look, it was a cover one shell, man underneath. George Kittle had the step on the boundary on the cornerback, or excuse me, the safety. What happened was Jair Alexander, once his man assignment went inside on the dig route, that forced Jair Alexander to use his instincts on the back end to undercut that ball and
yeah.
pick it off as a center fielder. So he wasn't even supposed to be in that area. He was supposed to stay on the boundary side because, again, he was tied up to his man. But again, that's what a smart cornerback, and that's what I did, is
Mm.
anytime you're on the back end and it's man assignment and you see that ball in the air traveling, 25, 30 yards, if you have the speed to go out and get it, you're going to go ahead and make a play on that ball as a ball hawk. So that's exactly what Jair Alexander did. And that's not on Jimmy Garoppolo. I put that on more as just a really, really nice play by a number one cornerback in my grading system. Graded out as an 8.2 out of a 10 in Jair Alexander, even though he gave up that Brandon Ayuk touchdown in this game. So
Yeah,
you
and
can't really
Jimmy
put it
G
on Jimmy
took us
Garoppolo.
back in the second half, right? Like if he
Yeah,
played like he played the first half the whole game, then that'll be a different
right.
story in my opinion. So
Big Dez, thank you so much for the Beast Rider family, super chat and super sticker. Mahalo for the love. If you have a question or want to have any comments or you want to join in on the engagement, please be sure to send me those super chats and super stickers. He says Jimmy G is just a bad fit right now. He is decent, but makes horrible decisions, and defenses know he can't push the ball. Safeties cheat to line of scrimmage all game. That is very true. I will agree
yeah.
with that 110%. Now, knowing that, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, give me a second real fast. Give me a second real fast. I'll be back. Hold on. Stay on.
All
Stay on.
right.
Hold on. I got to
Should I
plug on
start
my thing.
talking? Should I keep talking? I guess I'll keep talking. So Jimmy G, yes, bad fit right now. I would say I agree too. Does so until he gets back, I think Ryan will give his analysis, but I think even though he might be a bad fit right now, I don't think Trey Lance is ready, right? So what's your alternative? Or you can go with Studfield? No, right? So all right, I was just talking to
No,
your
I heard you.
listeners
I
while
heard you.
you're
I heard
all
you. I
right,
can hear everything you said.
all
I can hear
right.
everything you said. I had to plug
Keep
in
going.
my computer, so I had to turn it off for a
Oh,
little
okay.
bit.
Your
Um,
video. Okay. No worries.
so
All right. Let's hear your analysis. That was mine. Mine was,
I
hey,
heard
he
it.
might be bad right now, but he's the best we got for now until Lance is ready. I don't think. I mean, we see
Yeah,
with Justin Fields and all the other rookie quarterbacks.
yeah.
Do you really want Trey Lance to be in that same situation?
No, you
Even
don't.
though, no, right? You
You
don't.
don't.
You want him to be seasoned. You want him to get
And
more reps. And I don't think it's a bad idea. So, anyways, go ahead.
no, I'm going to piggyback on your analysis because you make a very good point and a very valid point. And I said this since day one. I say you shouldn't rush Trey Lance in, and then there's people like, oh, look at Justin Fields in the preseason. Oh, like that's on Nagy. He should be playing Justin Fields. And I was like, nah, bro, you
I
shouldn't.
don't
If you're
think
a
it's
Beast
all
Rider player, you
Nagy.
shouldn't. And again, you don't have
You
to take my word for it. I know people who are in the know, right? You know this in the BWF, man. They all love me. Hey, you're not wrong, bro. You're not wrong. And here we are. Another beast receipt checks out. Justin Fields is struggling because he doesn't have a stable offensive line. He doesn't He's still a young quarterback. I mean, you go down the trend. We have my man Jim Trotter on the phone, on the call here on NFL from NFL Network, and he was saying the same thing. How many quarterbacks pan out, man? Like, not very many, dude. And
I
like,
mean, look at Mac Jones, even, right? That's good coaching, decent line. He's still
yeah,
struggling too, right? Like
yeah,
he's the most NFL ready. He's struggling, right? So
right.
it's like, a guy like Trey Lance, not NFL ready, you're gonna throw him in the fire. That's I don't think it's a good move. You don't want him to lose his confidence, and I think he just needs to learn a little bit more. I think a lot of people just need to be patient. I think we can still win with Jimmy G. So
Right. I think right now, I think what the Niners need to do is reassess and be real with who they are. I think they need to go ahead and look at themselves in the mirror and say, look, we're not the same team we were dating back to the Super Bowl. All right. We're not the same team we were when we beat the Packers and trounced them in the NFC Championship game. What we are is a team that's depleted by injuries year in and year out. We're hurt at cornerback, and we're hurting on the back end as far as the running back position in the backfield. All right. So those two are the main key ingredients for future success. How can we better assess what we need moving forward? And if we don't think like the guys that we drafted, like Ambry Thomas, like Dio Lenore, are the answers, then you have to look at it at the end of the year and be like, hey, that's on you, John Lynch, because this is your scouting department. And this is ultimately your ship. You drafted these guys to play on a relishing role. If Ambry Thomas can't even get in a lineup position to be active on the active 53 with all these injuries, then you're really telling yourself, same with Aaron Banks, then you're really telling the team that you don't know what the hell you're doing in the first 3 rounds of the draft. You really don't. And outside of 2019, Deebo Samuel, Nick Bosa, you look at the first 3 rounds, they sucked. They sucked. All of them. Solomon Thomas. What did I say when they drafted Solomon Thomas? I said they should have went after Jamal Adams in real time, not in hindsight, as the draft unfolded. In 2018, I said, don't go after right tackle Mike McGlinchey. What did they do? Went after right tackle Mike McGlinchey. I said they should have traded up just one spot ahead. Again, all this in real time. Got Roquan Smith. I had draft Roquan Smith no matter what. When I was working as a beat writer in Levi Stadium, I even posted it, and people were laughing at it because you ain't wrong, bro. All right, 2019, I said to get Bosa and Deebo Samuel. Boom, first 2 picks panned out. Okay, cool. 2020, what happened? Right? What happened last year? They got Javon Kinlaw. I said, don't do that. They should have just stuck and got Tristan Wirfs. Or Justin Jefferson. Trade back. Boom. What happened? 2021, what happened? Trey Lance. Okay. But then again, in the second and third rounds, you should have went after Asante Samuel. So you see, if you would have just listened to me, John Lynch, we would be okay. It's
we
true.
need GM Beast. We need GM Beast in there, dude.
The receipts check out. And you can't say, and I can't say, oh, I was because there's a lot of people who say a lot of things just to cover their bases. I stick to what I say and I go with it. And
so how much of it do you think is on Kyle too, though? Like I know Lynch has
not so much on the defensive side, not so much on the defensive side,
but the offensive side, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he calls us.
Think of Aaron Banks. That's probably a Kyle Shanahan pick, right? It seems like a Kyle Shanahan pick all over, right? So, I think they're a duel. Their contracts are signed the same. So do you think if they get rid of Lynch, they're probably get rid of Shanahan too at this point?
I don't think they're going to get rid of Shanahan simply because I think he is still a really, really good offensive genius, and I don't think you waste that kind of talent. I think you keep a guy like Kyle Shanahan.
Agreed.
As it pertains to John Lynch, if you're gonna replace John Lynch, you have to replace him with another yes man. Because again, if you're the GM in that GM role, you got to remember Kyle Shanahan was hired and he brought in John Lynch. It wasn't like the other way around where the GM picks the head coach. So again, the working dynamic of that relationship in a workplace environment, it can be a disconnect there. We saw it with Balky and Harbaugh. We saw that power struggle. We're going to see that power struggle if John Lynch leaves. My thinking, if you want to know my thinking, 2-3 years out, if John Lynch is not the GM, you want to know what's going to happen? I think Ethan Waugh, right, or the director of college scouting or the vice president of player personnel, someone like that will get promoted within the organization and just take on that role.
Interesting.
I think so. I don't think they're going to go outside as long as Kyle Shanahan is there.
Well, they need someone that's strong defensively, though, right? Like defensive mind, rather. Like someone that's strong on that side. I think that's why Lynch is suffering a little bit because I think they brought him in thinking he knows his defense, but so far that hasn't really panned out,
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, whoever they bring in, they better be like someone who knows that can
Yeah.
really evaluate defensive players, So
Yeah. And again, it's just like I said, if people who are saying bring in Trey Lance now, if he has a 3 interception game, you guys know you guys will all be calling for his head. And
yeah.
they lose the game. If he went against the Seattle Seahawks at home and started this game, and Trey Lance had one passing touchdown, one rushing touchdown, threw 3 interceptions, and threw for under 200 passing yards, had a quarterback rating of 46.5, sacked 5 times, people are going to start wondering, oh man, and you can never go back to Jimmy Garoppolo because you already made that switch, because the disconnect within that locker room. Hey, look, you can't be going back and forth, because that's going to do a shake up with our offensive line. That's going to, like, every week we don't know who our quarterback is, just like opposing defenses don't know how we're going to use our quarterbacks. So by doing that, you're doing your whole entire team a disservice. If you're going to stick to a quarterback, you need to stick to them and then roll in that other player seamlessly. You cannot go back once you already committed to Trey Lance, because again, what does that do for his confidence? You got to remember, how old's a kid? 21 years old? When you were 21 years old, and let's say you were put in that position and all of a sudden people were calling for your head in corporate America, how would you feel that? And you're getting mass emails. Oh, Jerry Yang sucks. Like, oh my gosh.
I'll look like Dave.
I'm being serious though, because
I'll look like David Carr, I look like David Carr. He's a guy that's also shooken up by the media and get sacked many times, right? So, I agree with you. I think at that point, it's like, all I can say is November 3rd is the trade deadline. It'll be interesting to see if that's when they start Lance, right? Because, if they want to get any value from Jimmy, I think they have to do it within season.
Thank you so much. We'll I don't want to butcher your name. I think, is it Teron Lewis? Thank you so much for the super chat and super sticker. Appreciate the love, man. He says, 49er fan in the BEASTwriter family says, this offense will continue to add frustration to us fans if Jimmy remains at quarterback. I blame Kyle for not making adjustments. Seattle and Arizona will beat us if our offense continues to play like this. I thought he was said. I thought at the end he's gonna say play like S.
Yeah. It still. I mean, it still applies. It's still both the same.
He makes a valid point. Turner Lewis, thank you so much. You make a valid point. Let's go ahead and talk about that. So there is disconnect there in terms of how I would use Trey Lance. I'm not going to throw him into Lions Den right away. Again, because the Niners need a scapegoat. And if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I'm protecting my investment because I'm looking at the long game. I'm not looking at the instant gratification where, like the Chicago Bears, where they had no choice but to thrust Justin Fields into the starting line because Andy Dalton was out. And we saw him struggle. We saw Zach Wilson struggle, right? And everyone's crying Zach Wilson as a great quarterback.
5 interceptions, I think, in the last few games.
We saw Trevor Lawrence struggle. All right. So we saw all 3. We saw Mac Jones struggle. So all 4 of the 5 top quarterbacks in this year's draft class have struggled. So there's an 83% chance that Trey Lance is going to struggle at some point during the season. Just run the analytics on it. The proof is in the pudding. Just go off that sample size of 4 out of 5. That's 83%. And if I'm doing the math, is that correct?
Yeah. You're close enough. If anything else.
Is it 83? Our notation with the 3.
Carry the 4.
That's the agent in us. We're very smart. No,
there we go. Hey, stop perpetuating that from that stereotype, man. Killing us here.
He said it's pronounced Taryn. Sorry, Taryn Lewis. Thank you so much, Taryn.
All right, my bad.
Taryn makes a great point. Taryn, thank you so much again for the super chat and super sticker. But yeah, I don't think you can make that switch now. I think you do make that switch. Like, let's say if the Niners go and lose the next 3 games, like Taryn says, right? So let's say they lose to Seattle, lose to Arizona, teams like this, and let's say they're 2-5, then you got to make the switch. Because then it's
at that point you have nothing to lose, right? You have nothing to lose.
Exactly. Because at that point, again, you're taking pressure off of Trey Lance because he's not being pressured to win these high pressure volume of games in a short time span. Because at the end of the day, he's still learning. He still has to go through his progression. And again, you got to remember, when you bring in a guy like Trey Lance, you're dissecting the playbook by default because you're still trying to teach him the ins and outs of the NFL game. See, being a beat writer, I know this. I live it because I'm with them 24/7, 365. My office is there, right? So I know exactly what happens there. This is exactly what we're going to do. It's going to see a different offense. If Niner fans think this is vanilla, it's going to be even more vanilla with Trey Lance. The only difference that you'll see, which is a huge difference in terms of the running game, is you're going to see a lot of movement, a lot of play action pass, a lot of explosive plays, a lot of highlights that you see on NFL Network. These angry runs maybe from Trey Lance with a mean stiff arm, these things in open space. You might see a lot of that, and that will get the 49er fans something to cheer about in a bleak season if they do ultimately make that switch to Trey Lance in the bleak season. But to say that he's going to be, a Pro Bowl quarterback, I'm not so sure that's going to be in year one. Maybe year two, not year one.
Right. Basically, what you're saying is if the season's lost and we're in like development mode, that's when you put him in, right? Because at this point, I think it's not lost. I think we're still pretty much in the playoff hunt. Like why would you want to make the switch now when Jimmy G's getting you 2 wins, and we probably would have had 3, right? In some ways, if we played a little bit better in the first half. So a team that should have gone 3-0 and is 2-1 right now, you don't make a switch, right? You keep it, you deal with it, you clean up the mistakes like you said, and just play better. I think if our offense played like the way we played in the second half for the whole game, we probably would have beat the Packers easily. It's the fact that the first half it took so long to get us going, and we just have to clean that up. So once we clean it up, we'll see. The game's always funny like that, right? Because if we play well against Seattle and Jimmy G has a monster game, I think people will still be cheering for Trey Lance, but at least people won't be as frustrated. But coming off a loss, it's like this frustration is just compounding, And I think Jimmy G, as long as he's healthy, he's always been serviceable. If anything, he's exceeding expectations for a guy we got with a second-round pick and traded. I don't think anyone else is better on the roster right now. Like to be honest with you, Trey Lance will get there eventually, but just right now he's not better.
No, he's not, because you got to understand that Jimmy Garoppolo has been in this offense since 2017 or 2018, right? So he's been in this offense for quite a while. What year was it? 27? I think it's 2017. Did I say 2018?
It's 2017. It's 2017. Yeah. But and he got the seasoning from Belichick too, right? So he's bringing a lot of the New England experience with him too. So it's
it's one of those things where it is a lot of development. It's not as simple and cut dry as, hey, let's put Trey Lance in. Let's see what this kid can do. Because again, the defenses are going to say, let's see what this kid can't do. You see how the inverse is related? If I was going up against a rookie quarterback, I would do inverted coverage. I would disguise my coverage pre-snap. I would bring up the strong safety, then roll him back. I would also use a quarter half coverage to where he thinks it's cover 3, but then again, it's zone on the backside. So when he throws that deep pass to like a George Kittle, it can get picked off in that zone help type of a defense. There's a lot of stuff that you can do, and that's just on the back end. That's not even talking about the second level backers. So when you say that Trey Lance is smart, he hasn't faced the FBS level of competition that powerhouse like Alabama sees, like with Mac Jones. He hasn't seen the NFL real-time game time decisions where he's inserted between the 20s, not in goal line situations where the plays are disconnected and they're shortened, which means there's less real estate to work with. So the margin of error for making these mistakes aren't as great because, again, you have so much field to work with. This is where I want to see Trey Lance's progression is between the 20s. And he's doing it against 2s and 3s in preseason. I want to see how he does against 1. And until Jimmy Garoppolo ultimately shoots the bed, you have to roll with Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, if he's horrible and throws 6 for 17 in a game, or 16 for 25, or 9 for 23, or whatever the case may be, then does that for consecutive games, then you have to make a switch. And they're winning. And like, let's say they're like 4-3 and he's like really bad. You can consider making the switch at that point. But until Jimmy Garoppolo falls off the earth and is an absolute, horrible, you can't really make
garbage, basically. No, I agree. So I agree. So at this point, hey in there, fans. I know it's frustrating. I feel it too, but he's the best starter that we got. So let's just root for him and hope we still make the playoffs.
I mean, look, I know we're not going to hit the panic button because there's still a really
people are panicking already, man. The cord has been pulled already. You know what I mean?
I mean, let's face it. Would they be panicking if they pulled out this win? No, but I would still be panicking because again, they got by being a nail biter win, right? It was a nail biter win.
It should have been a bigger win. I think,
So
especially at
yeah,
home.
I think so too. I think
At home against a horrible defense. Come on, dude. you know?
yeah. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, they have Zadarius Smith in there. They moved Kenny Clark from the nose tackle to the defensive end position at 34 base, so kind of mixed up things. Look, a lot of this falls off on GM John Lynch. I mean, speaking of Kenny Clark, he moves outside, goes up against Daniel Brunskill. Brunskill gets turnstile like a low, like Olay offense, right? You
Yeah.
go
I mean,
Olay, kind of
credit
like
to
a
Clark
Matador,
though,
Matador
right?
stuff
I
up.
mean, I'll give credit to Clark where it's deserved. I think the Packers line played really well. Like,
But
I
that's why
think
you
they
get
did an
Aaron Banks.
awesome job.
That's why you drafted Aaron Banks in the second round, right? To be that
Yeah,
guy.
put him in there.
And he's a healthy scratch. So what are you doing, John Lynch?
Yeah.
Now you're hurting at quarterback. Should have just drafted Asante Samuel, like I said. Then you wouldn't have this problem with K'Wan
Yeah,
Williams
what's up with
and Richard
Lynch
on the spot.
hating quarterbacks, dude? Like, is he just like gun shy because the
I don't know.
quarterbacks never panned out, or is it just
I
bad luck, bad
don't
evaluation?
know.
Is he in bad scouting or what?
Yeah.
There has to be something, right? I don't know. I just feel like
Yeah.
you can't miss this hard without having some hole in your decision making. You know?
Yeah. But all right. Thank you so much, Jerry. I know you gotta get going. I know I gotta get going. I gotta do my
know.
letters. And it's been fun. We do this every Taco Tuesday around this time,
Fun.
sometimes a little bit earlier, sometimes a little bit later. But Jerry Yang, thank you so much.
See you guys
for
on
tuning in.
Discord. I would say I'm on Discord all the time. Hit me up, ask questions. You know, Beast has the analysis. I have the emotion, the heart. Yeah, I'm a fan
There you
like
go.
you guys, so I'll start rooting and start cheering. So yeah,
There you go. Yeah, you can join our Discord here. I know I pushed the BEASTwriter Plus newsletter. Also push Discord. We push everything. YouTube,
Yeah.
Twitch TV. What else are we on? Twitter,
Twitter, YouTube,
Facebook. All right.
YouTube
All right, man.
is
Huh?
key, dude. So
So much.
YouTube. Yeah, I love it, man. That's where I get my stuff. Is all on YouTube. So
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jerry, and
Thanks
take care on this Taco Tuesday. Always a pleasure. And thank you, BEASTwriter family, for subscribing to our channel. If you have yet to do so, please do so in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. And thank you, everyone, and mahalo for the super chat and super stickers. That'll be it for today. Jerry Yang, thank you for tuning in.
Thank
Have
you.
a good
Thanks
day.
for having me. Yep.
BEASTwriter out.